of a current or former peace officer, and also the adult child of a current or former police officer. Current or former employees of a federal or state judge, they've been added to the list. And of course, we've added anybody in a family regarding family violence, sexual assault, abuse, stalking, trafficking. Any of those are now can be added. I think it's kind of funny, we're not added to that at all. Appraisal district employees, information's out there. Same with school board, information is out there. So, but they have extended that information. So if you're looking at a value and you see, or looking for information and you don't see a name on there, it's because they qualified under one of those. Exemptions, this is a new one for the state, and it's under Senate Bill 15 and the Senate Joint Resolution number 1. It's a homestead exemption for first responders that were killed in action. So if a police officer or a fire employee, a fireman was killed in action, his spouse can receive a 100% exemption on their property taxes. There's some requirements. They have to stay in the same house. They cannot remarry. If they move to another house, it's only the value of the home at the time. There is no date on that, so we figure we'll be getting some folks that will be coming in that maybe their spouse passed away a few years ago, but it'll be from 18 forward. There won't be any back refunds or anything. It'll go for 18 forward. So that's a big one. Another big one that will affect school districts and municipalities is the late homestead and disability and over 65 dates have changed. If you came in to file for a late homestead or an over 65, you could file it up to 1 year past the delinquency date. That has now been changed to 2 years past the delinquency date. And if you are a disabled veteran, you have 5 years past that delinquency date. So you think your tax roll right now is fluctuating, it's going to fluctuate even more. It's a good thing for the property owners that have this exemption. It'll be a little bit hard. Your roll is never going to be steady. It will always be changing. It's also allowing now for installment payments. Over 65 and disabled that qualify, they are allowed to get installment payments and paying their taxes. It's now including the disabled veteran or the unmarried surviving spouse of the disabled veteran. That has now been included. Also, under House Bill 217, it's added disabled veterans to deferrals. Over 65 or disabled qualifiers can defer paying any taxes whatsoever, and at the time of their passing, then the estate will have to come in and pay the taxes plus any interest. There's no penalty, but there'll be interest. So now a disabled veteran can qualify and allow and be able to defer those taxes. This, basically the exemptions were, the reason I wanted to bring those up is because it will affect the school district's role as we go forward. We're not sure how much it's going to affect. El Paso is a huge retirement community for military. So that's a big one. Right now we have, if you count all of the military exemptions, the 100% plus the percentages and including the spouses, you're about a little over $800 million in value. We're close to $1 billion in value being exempt off of the appraisal roll for just that exemption. So as they continue to add and change these exemptions, that will affect y'all. And one of the biggest things I thought was kind of funny, I don't know anybody who's doing this, but under Senate Bill 252, it is now illegal in the state of Texas to contract with terrorists. You know, go figure. We needed we didn't get school financing looked at. We didn't get a lot of things looked at, but we can no longer do business with terrorists. Surprise, surprise. I don't think any of us would ever do that anyway. We want to stay as far away from as possible, but they took time to pass that bill. That's just a real rough briefing. Mr. Rosales wanted me to come in and kind of give you guys a heads up on some of the things we're going to be looking at. Do y'all have any questions or anything you'd like to? No? All right. Thank you for having me. Maybe I'll come back again and give you some numbers on where we are in under protesting. And this year's 2017 protest season went really, really well. We received majority of our high dollar values were signed off on waivers. So we're not looking at a lot of high dollar litigation and lawsuits. That was a first for us. We certified at 99.46%, which was, humongous for us. That was a big deal for us. So it's good in one way. You have a very good number. It's also not so good in another way, is there's not a lot of room to maneuver because we are so close to that 100%. All right, well, if y'all ever have any questions, you're welcome to come by and see us, give us a call.
Turn it. Here, just.
Yeah, the red button.
Push all. See, at our office, we push everybody's button for them, so.
No, I want to thank you for being here. And I just want to share this with the board members and you people out there. I've been involved with the CAD now for the last 3 months, and it's been a real eye-opening experience for me. But my comments to you is I'm very impressed with the way and the manner that this organization is being run, thanks to you and the board and that represents and works with you all. I thank you, and I hope to bring you back to at least address some of the dear issues to our situation here in Ysleta.
You bet, I'll be happy to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
I'd like to say thank you also for doing this. It helps us to understand what's going on with this. And also, thank you to Mr. Rosales. You stepped up to the plate, and you're doing a great job. Thank you so much.
President Woodruff, members of the board, guests, the next item has to do with the Vision 2020 and a scorecard that we have developed. The Vision 2020 Strategic Action Plan is a plan that was developed in 2015 after an inclusive process that invited and welcomed stakeholders from throughout the district to really set our performance goals and priorities for the 42,000 students that we serve in the Ysleta Independent School District. Through that process, back in 2015, we arrived at 5 goals. The first goal had to do with academic achievement and was primarily assessed using STAR EOC data. The second goal was our people, and that had to do with making sure that internally as an organization, we treated people fairly, consistently. It spoke to things like compensation, health and welfare benefits, making sure that the relationship that we had with associations, YTA and others, were positive and value added. The third was service excellence. That was an emphasis on providing great customer service, great courtesy in our schools, and accepting and understanding that parents and their students have options, and we wanted to be a great option for parents and students. Number 4 had to do with being fiscally responsible as it relates to finances as well as operations, and included in number 4 back in 2015, early 2015, was addressing our needs relative to our facilities. That translated into 2 efforts, 2 bond efforts, one that failed by 367 votes, and then the second in November of 2015 that passed with a 60% approval rating. And then the final goal was the college career readiness emphasis, and that was appreciating and understanding that it's not enough to guarantee our students a high school diploma today, that we needed them to be college ready, gain admittance into colleges, universities, trade schools, the military, but more importantly, not just be admitted, but succeed and earn either an Associate of Arts, Associate of Science degree, preferably a baccalaureate, or a certificate that indicates that they've specialized in a trade. And all of that was the sort of the backbone of Vision 2020. Working with this great group of people in front of me, we came up with action plans that included universal pre-K for all students. It included promoting literacy by the 3rd grade, meaning that all students would be literate in English by the 3rd grade. A lot of emphasis on mathematics, specifically algebra at the 8th grade, increased the number of students enrolled. More importantly, increased the number of students that enroll and pass algebra in the 8th grade. A great deal of emphasis and focus on our English learners and making sure that we accelerated their English language acquisition and their academic language acquisition so they could begin to take the STAR and EOC test sooner rather than later. And then introducing dedicated staff at all of our elementary schools That dedicated staff was in the form of 4 FTE, a math and science specialist, an English language arts reading specialist, an interventionist that would work with students who have been diagnosed with dyslexia, but when the caseload is small, they would continue to work with all students who were struggling in the area of reading and writing. And then the fourth was a computer teacher that would provide professional development and training to our teachers and our staff so that they can leverage technology to promote learning. And it's a very sound plan. However, we've had 2 years to review data, to reconsider data, and we felt it important that members of the superintendent's cabinet meet with the Board of Trustees. We have 4 new trustees, introduce the current plan, and then consider some recommendations in the current plan with the help of facilitator Mr. Pennington, who met with us on July 28th and 29th. We thought that those 2 days were incredibly valuable to members of cabinet. We thought that we learned a lot relative to the interest that this board has and the commitment they've made to become an academic board that's student-centered and focuses first and foremost on academic achievement and making sure students are given access and opportunities at the post-secondary level. Based on those conversations, we were able to consolidate and collapse goal number 1 and goal number 5, academic achievement, as well as college and career readiness. And we agreed that they're really all one and the same. We certainly want our students to do well on the STAR test. We want them to do well on the end of course test, but we also want them to do well on indicators that have national norms like SAT, ACT, the TSI. We want more students to enroll in and pass dual credit courses. We want students to get involved in early college, high school experiences. We want to, and this was an emphasis that wasn't present initially, but we want to see greater emphasis on career tech ed and perhaps the reinvention of Riverside High School as a career tech ed center. We talked a little bit about advanced placement courses and improving the number of students that take and pass advanced placement courses. So rather than have 2 separate and distinct goals around academic achievement, we consolidated both of those goals and came up with goal number 1 that we refer to now as academic achievement that promotes college and career readiness. And we'll look at all of that data. The second had to do with what was 2 and 3, our people and service excellence. We felt like those 2 could be collapsed. Our people speaks to how we work internally with one another and with the associations. Service excellence tends to emphasize how we work with our external customers. And what we arrived at is we want to be effective, efficient, and transparent with both parties, both internal parties as well as external parties. And so we've made that a focal point. In fact, with us this evening are our service excellence ambassadors who will talk a little bit about our service excellence initiative and what we're doing to become somewhat unique, remarkable in the area of customer service, both on an internal basis as well as an external basis. And then, of course, that last goal, the responsibility around our finances, our operations, Bond 2015, has to stay at the forefront. All of us have put our name and our face behind Bond 2015. We want to remain fiscally strong. I think that Ms. Leeper, her team, the rest of cabinet have been incredibly effective at doing that. We've got, I think, a healthy fund balance. I think for the most part, Bond 2015 is going according to plan. We've been able to give our employees, all employees, an increase, a modest increase every year since I arrived in 2014. There have been no changes to health and welfare benefit plans. Class sizes remain favorable for instruction, and we'd like to continue and do that without jeopardizing our fiscal health. So what's captured in that folder is you've got the unabbreviated Vision 2020, but we also heard loud and clear from the board that they really wanted a dashboard or scorecard that they could turn to almost immediately and look at what kind of progress we've made. So we've developed this scorecard that has targets that support each one of the 3 board goals, the first being high academic achievement leading to post-secondary readiness. Many of those measures were already in place, but I do want to draw your attention to the new ones that you've asked us to consider, and they're located down at the bottom half of Goal 1. We'll start with the bottom one, increasing annually the percentage of students participating in CTE programs and achieving certifications by 2% a year over the next 3 years. The one above it is increase annually the percentage of college-ready students by 2% as measured by the TSI in reading, writing, and mathematics. Increase annually the number of students in AP courses earning a 3 or better on AP exams by at least 2%, and we've made a commitment to make sure that the number of students that are enrolling and passing dual credit courses never falls below 4,000 students. And that's really driven by the economic realities of being in dual credit courses. They're incredibly expensive, but we never want to retreat from the number that we achieved this year. It's just not sustainable to, at one point, put all of your students in dual credit courses because they're expensive. So what we're hoping is that you'll have an opportunity to review that information. In relative to our people, we'll continue to work with the Studer Group, and we will survey our parents and their children. We'll survey our teachers and staff, and we will survey our principals and other instructional leaders to see how we're doing as a district office, as a central office. And that rating, it is our goal that that rating never fall below 4 on a 1 to 5 Likert-like scale. In addition to that, our new initiative with Service Excellence will also provide for an opportunity to review the complaints and concerns that that office gets from parents. This year, as I shared with you, it was in excess of 400 parent complaints and or concerns. Of those 400, over 200 had nothing to do with the topic. It had to do more with how they felt they were treated at the school. We hope to cut that by 30%. In other words, there are going to be times when parents are going to leave and they're going to be dissatisfied, but it will always be anchored to policies, practices, standards that we just don't retreat from. What we don't want is in excess of 200 complaints that have to do with courtesy, the way they were treated, whether or not they received a phone call, whether or not they felt the person was attentive and listening. The folks out in the audience and I, members of cabinet, I believe at this point have personally touched probably 80% of all employees in the district. They understand that it's a commitment that you'd like us to make. They understand it's a commitment that we're willing to make and that it's a priority in this school district. In the very near future, when you walk into any school, it will be prevalent in the atmosphere that we're about courtesy and customer service. You'll see it in the form of signs, in the form of asphalt signs as they walk in, making a commitment, and the commitment is basically this: we're going to exceed your expectations. You are going to have a higher opinion of this school and this staff when you leave than when you first came. And that's the commitment we'd like everyone to make, whether it's front office staff, administrators, faculty or staff or coaches. Everybody should find a way to really exceed our customer, our clients' expectations. Our customer and clients are our students, their parents, their relatives, and members of our community. The third, we'll continue to work directly with you around, and that has to do with how we manage our finances and how we operate the school district and how we make a buck stretch. And as I said, 2015 bond is going well. One of the things that our bond will not be vulnerable to that isn't true of El Paso ISD's bond and probably won't be true of Socorro's is that as a result of Harvey and Irma and ultimately Julio, potentially, the price of steel, the price of fuel, the price of building materials, and the price of labor is about to go up 20–25%. We are fortunate in that we got out ahead of it. We've secured contracts with all of our architects, engineers, and other related fields. We've secured contracts with all of our general contractors. They've secured contracts with all of their subcontractors, and our general contractors have already ordered the steel and the other building or construction materials. It should not affect this school district. But consider for a minute that if the price of steel goes up 20%, that means that any budget that you're currently developing in a school district or that a school district will develop in the future will have to be padded by 20%. And a lot of that has to do not just with the cost of steel, but transporting the steel here rather than getting a better price by taking it to Houston or by taking it to Florida. And so, again, I don't know whether it's, strategic or it's that candle I lit at church one Sunday, but things continue to work well for this school district. A lot of it may have to do with the great pool of talent before you, but we're in a good place, and we're still finding all of our projects on budget, under budget. Most of them, with the exception of a couple that are a couple of weeks behind, are still going as planned, and there should be no adverse impact to students. Ideally, there may have been one or two projects that we would have liked to have finished before the school year started. The nice thing is that although they may not be completely turned over to the district, they're not presenting any kind of an adverse or detrimental impact to our students or their parents. And most of the projects that are supposed to be done this fall, if not all of them, will be done this fall. And you'll hear more about that from VLK this evening. They're with us. And so what we're trying to capture here is kind of in a snapshot, where are we? Are we moving the academic needle? The answer is yes. Where are we relative to the relationships that we have with the associations, the relationships that we have with our employees, the mutual respect that you have between district leadership and our principals and instructional leadership teams, the relationship that they have with their faculty, staff, and coaches, and then, of course, the most important relationship, and that is the relationship that we enjoy with our parents and their students. And that seems to be, I think, very positive. And then finally, I think we'll all agree that financially we're in a very good situation. Hopefully you've had a chance to look it over this weekend. We will bring it back to you Wednesday and ask you to go ahead and adopt these goals and these targets, and then we'll go to work to try and deliver on your behalf and on behalf of the 41,000 students that we find ourselves serving at the moment. So declining enrollment continues to be a challenge. We're going to put a report together so that you can see where the decline is at, because it's not declining everywhere. It's declining in some areas, it's growing in other areas, and it's maintaining or plateauing in other areas. And we want you to be aware of that and equipped with that when you meet your constituents. In addition to that, last thing is that because that's happening, Mr. O'Neill, myself, and others have already started work on what would theoretically be phase 2 of the bond in 2020-21, and want to start sharing some ideas with all of you in terms of what we can do to keep being more efficient and better stewards of our taxpayers' dollars. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Do you have any questions? Mr. Ramirez?
First off, I'd like to, on behalf of the trustees, thank the cabinet and Dr. La Torre for those 2 days of hard work. I think that was incredibly invaluable to us as a team, getting us up to speed, putting us all at the same level and understanding and what we need to do as a district. I was especially impressed. I'm always impressed with the cabinet, but I was especially impressed that those 2 days working with the cabinet, because we found out that not only are they incredibly intuitive and have the needs, understand the needs of our students and their parents and the families, but they're passionate about it. And I already knew that, but it's kind of nice to hear that. And just for the record, poor Mrs. O'Neill, I know she bit her tongue several times, not saying anything, but thank you. I appreciate everything that was said and done. A couple of days ago, or late last week, Dr. Signage at El Paso Community College, as all you know, I work for the college, did the State of the College, and we attended that presentation. It is very nice to realize that the things that he talked about, our district is aligned with, and that's important to me, that alignment occurs. We heard a couple of months back that TEA had put a moratorium on the expansion of early college academies and that sort of thing. And I hadn't really understood why. And after hearing Dr. Signage speak last week, when you hear that 1 out of 4 kids that are attending early college are achieving an associate's degree, that's very distressing. However, in El Paso County or Region 19, 3 out of 4 of our students are achieving a associate's degree and a high school diploma. That speaks volumes to what's happening not only here at YISD, but across Region 19. And so, again, it makes me feel good to see the alignment that's in place. It means something, it's important, and I think and more importantly, it's addressing the community needs of our students and their families in the future for this community. So, again, I'd like to say thank you very much to everybody for a really good 2 days, a hard 2 days. You know, you did a very good job. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Just
Mr.
real
Pierre?
quickly, I'd like to also thank Dr. De La Torre and his cabinet. I think more than anything, what I'm most impressed about is that you all took our ideas and you ran with it and you listened to us and you got this beautiful plan already developed and you had 4 new board members come in and kind of shake it up a little bit. You still were willing to add what you wanted to do as well as what we all thought was good to add on there. And my biggest thing that I get from this is that YISD is not only committed to the students while they're in YISD, but when they're afterwards. And if you look at the last goals that were added on there, they're all about their future, about being college ready, about having CT programs so they can have a job once they leave YISD or have a trade. And I think that's the most beautiful thing about our district is that we care about our students even when they leave. And so I think that's a wonderful thing. And I'm really grateful to the cabinet and Dr. De La Torre and the rest of the board members for making that commitment to our students.
Well, I also want to echo that sentiment. When I saw the scorecard and I looked over that, I was like, they really listened to what we had to say, and I'm very appreciative of that. Thank you for taking the amateur hour here and turning it into something that we can really use and work with. Thank you so much for that, and for all the time that we spent doing that. It was very hard work. I went home exhausted at night, but feeling very fulfilled. So I just appreciate that you did this with us. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Can I just have
Absolutely.
one question? There was one question. I know I'm a stickler for this, especially since it's what I do. On the TSI, the 2%, are all seniors tested for TSI, or how does that work? How will we measure that?
Good evening, I'm Mr. Kadir.
Hi, Mr.
To answer your question, we actually test starting in 8th grade in some cases,
Yeah,
especially
sure.
early college. So this, I'm thinking this is all students.
Okay.
But I can confirm that.
Okay, great.
Yes, but yes, our seniors, if they haven't tested. And so when you look at the senior scores, we have to be careful because it's not including the kids who've already passed it their freshman, sophomore, and junior year. So
But
it's
wouldn't
not-
you have their TSI scores
Yes,
anyway
we
since they
would.
took it already?
Yes, but
So-
we have to be careful not to look at the seniors only.
Yeah,
Because many of the seniors already passed their TSI scores.
yeah, of
And
course.
if you didn't take it during your high school career, then your senior year, you do take the TSI.
Of course, yeah.
That way, 100% participation.
So then you would take it from what, if they passed in 8th grade, then that's good enough. If they
Yeah, because
pass
once
it
they
to-
pass it,
then they don't have to
graduated.
take it ever again. Yeah,
Exactly.
absolutely.
Exactly.
Okay.
Then you're eligible to take the dual credit courses.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay. Mhm.
Great. On that note, we have members of the Service Excellence Initiative, specifically the Service Excellence Ambassadors are with us this evening, and they just like to give you a little background and an overview of what we've been doing since we returned from Florida back in May of 2017. A lot has happened this spring and this summer, and so I'll turn it over to our Director of Parent-Pupil Services, Mr. Jimmy Vasquez.
Good evening, President Woodruff, Dr. Del Torre, members of the board. We are here tonight to present an update on our Service Excellence Initiative. We were here back in May to tell you about an exciting training we were going to attend and talking to you about our rollout plan. And just to catch you up, I know there's several new members since we were here last. Let me catch you all up. Back at the end of May 23rd through 25th, we attended the Disney Institute, the world-renowned Disney Institute out in Orlando, Florida, May 23rd through the 25th. And we took a group of 14 administrators out there. We are known as the Service Excellence Ambassadors, and I'd like to introduce them at this time. We have Luisa Aguirre Baeza, Patricia Ayala, Monica Bustillos, Heather Click-Cuellar, Charlie Garcia, Craig Larman, Lorraine Martinez, Robert Martinez, David Medina, Marianne Olivas, Claudia Oreño, Stacy Vasquez. We're also very excited to have our superintendent, Dr. De La Torre, as part of the Service Excellence team. And although he had to pull out at the last minute, another member of our team is Mr. Pat O'Neill. So the Disney Institute, just to give you an idea, they really are the gold standard when it comes to service excellence. And we had people out there from across the country and all over the world. Just to give you an idea of some of the attendees when we were there, we had folks there from the Philadelphia Eagles, the Boston Red Sox, the New York Times, Indian Motorcycles, and you can see the list there. Some high caliber organizations were there. And in speaking with them, they all were saying the same things. They're doing great things at their own organizations. They're very reputable organizations, but they just wanted to do better, especially when it came to the way they treat their customers. So that's kind of the mindset that we had. We're doing great things here in the district, but we know that we can always do better. So one of the things that Disney does better than anybody is they understand their customers. They refer to them as their guests, and they have a process called guestology. And what that is first they learn who their guests are. Whenever they're opening a new restaurant, a new theme park, a new ride, they want to understand who their guests are. Then they want to figure out what are their expectations from us as Disney. And then they don't aim to meet those expectations. They shoot to exceed those expectations. And Walt Disney once said, you don't build it for yourself. You know what people want, and you build it for them. So one of the things that Disney developed is a common purpose. They did this over 50 years ago, and it's remained relatively unchanged in that time. And their common purpose reads, we create happiness by providing the finest in entertainment for people of all ages everywhere. And that's something that everybody in the organization understands and they know by heart. And you ask anybody at Disney what they do, and they simply say, we create happiness. Now, it doesn't matter what level job you have, everybody knows that in their own special way that they create happiness. And they do this through 4 filters. They do it through safety, through courtesy, show, and efficiency. And everything they do runs through those 4 filters. Every decision they make sure that it falls under those standards. So when we got back, we went right to work. We met several times over the summer to synthesize what we had learned, but then also to start coming up with the training modules for all of our 6,000 employees. So there we are, hard at work, and that was him writing there. Sorry, I went through that so quickly, sir. So the first thing that we had to determine when we got back was, who are our customers here in the district? Who do we serve? And we determined that it's 4 groups of people. It's our pupils, our personnel, our parents, and our partners. And we refer to these 4 groups of people as our VIP4s. And what that means is there are very individual pupils, our very individual personnel, very individual parents, and very individual partners. Really what we mean by that is we don't treat people as groups of people. We treat them as individuals. We don't treat them the way we want to be treated. We treat them the way they want to be treated. So we developed over these several trains a common purpose. And you can see that one sentence there that actually took about 3 meetings to come up with. Not that we're not efficient or not that we're not bright, but when you put a group of 14 administrators in one room and try and come up with one sentence that really captures the essence of what we do here in the district and really encapsulates our purpose and our reason for existence, it's hard to do. And we wanted, we deliberated over certain words. Some of us wanted this word in, some of us wanted another word in, but it really took a long time. But we were very deliberate in this process, and we wanted to make sure that we were doing right by our VIPs, by our customers. So we developed this common purpose for our district, and it reads, "We deliver excellence through innovative educational experiences in a safe and nurturing environment." We also, just like Disney had 4 standards, we developed 4 service excellence standards that we are going to use as our filters in making our decisions in the future. And they are safety, courtesy, innovation, and accountability. And those serve as, like I say, as our service excellence standards. And those are the ones that we're going to follow when we make decisions in the future. And just like Disney had their slogan, "We create happiness," here in YISD, you ask us what we do, we're going to say, "We deliver excellence." Now I'm going to pass it on over to Monica Bustillos.
Hi, good evening. Well, when we got to the Disney Institute, one thing that we realized over and over was that they exceeded our expectations at every single turn. So our very first evening, they had us, at the end of training, we had some light hors d'oeuvres, and as you can see, we even got to take pictures with Mickey and Minnie, and every single where we turned, it was just something different and something exciting that we never expected. So that's one of the things that we want to follow here at YISD. When we were here in May, we let you all know that we would train and touch every employee of the district. So starting in August, we began our trainings, August 2nd and 3rd. We trained all of the leadership, the directors, assistant principals, and principals of the campuses. That was about 200 employees. On August 9th, it was the front office staff, about 100 employees. August 14th, we went out and trained transportation and maintenance coordinators, which was another 20. August 21st, the entire transportation department was here with us, and that was about 350 people. On August 22nd, central office personnel, we trained them, about 250 people. And August 23rd, fine arts, 250. Here we were doing our two-a-days. August 24th, we started out with maintenance and operations, 200. And then in the afternoon, we went out to Valle Verde and we trained their staff of 50. And to close up on August 25th, we trained the special education department, about another 200 employees. In total, as of now, we've trained about 1,500 employees ourselves. However, on August 2nd and 3rd, we did have leadership follow the trainer of trainers model. And so the afternoon after convocation, after Dr. De La Torre introduced service excellence, then all of the campuses, the leadership of the campuses went back and trained their staff. So at this point, all employees have been trained. We are pending a few, but we're going to do a makeup session that you all are welcome to come sit with us and learn. Here what we wanted to do and what we learned at Disney is that setting is a huge part of what we do. And so here you'll see for the leadership training, we wanted to bring our VIPs to life. And we placed them in the 4 corners of this room so that as they, as the leaders were sitting here, they were surrounded by our VIPs. Here was our pupils corner. This was our personnel corner. Here is our parents, what represented our parents, and then our partners, the people that we work with to make our schools successful. So that was how we brought the setting to life here. And again, just a reminder that those are the 4 corners of our district. That's who we work with and who we work for. Dr. De La Torre was very involved in this process. You'll see him there at the front. What we did, he opened up every single one of our trainings. So he traveled with us to all the ones that you saw on that list, and he delivered the message at the beginning. He was always our opening guest speaker. Here we have our cabinet, hard at work at training. We felt, since it was a trainers model, that it was important for all the leadership to be involved, and more so they are able to offer our campus leadership the support that they need because they've gone through the training also. Here we have something you'll learn a little later. This is our special education department doing our little "We Deliver Excellence" chant. Here's our selfie with Valle Verde Early College with their staff. And here we have our maintenance and operations, standing up, doing something a little different and going through training here too. Turning it over to Ms. Luisa.
Good evening. So we've kind of covered what we did to get here, where we went to Florida, and then Monica covered all the things that we've already done within the district. And so I'm going to take you through where we're going to go from here, because we start off really strong, and we want to make sure we keep the momentum going as well. So one of the things that you'll see with this quote by Jack Welch is in the lenses, you'll see Ysleta off in the distance there, and you'll also see a graph. So we're going to kind of talk to you about how we hope to get there in the next couple of years as we implement. One of the things that we're going to be using is a planning matrix. And so when we did the initial training with our leadership group, we used this planning matrix where it covers the 4 service excellence standards on the left, and then up on the top, it talks about the people, the place, and the process. So we asked every one of our administrators to go back, department administrators and campus administrators, to see what's one thing you can do differently to start really saying that your campus, your department is providing service excellence. And at this time we had, for our training, we had Charlie Garcia, who actually came up with the example that he used already for his campus. It was a really nice integrative kind of session. We also made sure that they left on with some hands-on experience as to where they were going to take this. So we've had lots of feedback, and we'll have our first leadership meeting next week with our leadership folks, where we'll get to readdress it again with them as well. In addition to that, every month we'll address one of our standards again. So starting with September, again, we'll do an overview, because everybody started off with the first of the year in August, and then we'll continue with the order of our service excellence standards. So you'll see safety, courtesy, innovation, accountability, and then we'll take it through again. And we hope that in June, we'll have a showcase with our principals and with our departments as to some of the great things that they did in their campuses and their departments. This is just kind of a bullet list of things that we're going to be addressing within the next coming months at each of our leadership meetings, and as well, anytime somebody gets caught doing some kind of service excellence, we're all over Twitter. So we're tweeting with the hashtag #WeDeliverExcellence as well. We have a kudos page, excuse me, on our webpage, and then we'll have some stickers that we'll be handing out, and some recognitions that we'll be handing out to our leaders as well. And then each of our campuses will also be getting some floor graphics in front of their campus with the 4 service excellence standards with the definition. And so every single campus will have that walking in. And then one of the last things that we're committed to was some placards that we will be installing at each of our campuses, and this will be available both in English and Spanish. But the idea of really honing in on the service excellence is that when every person, every one of our VIPs comes into our campus, to our department, to our district, they should leave with a higher opinion of us than when they first entered. And so this will be a placard that will be displayed at each one of our campuses and departments as well. And so as Monica said, one of the things that Dr. De La Torre opened up with, and you also heard this as well at our convocation, is really looking at moving that needle, if you will, on our flow chart here, and just making sure right now everybody has a typical bell curve where there's a couple of folks that are doing a really good job, and there's always somebody that's not so good and somebody that's absolutely awesome. So our hopes are here for that visual is in the next couple of years is when we're having an off day, it's just okay, it's not poor. And then obviously by 2019, an off day for us is still a good day for us here in Ysleta. So that's something that we're working towards and that we'll continue to work towards, and we'll continue giving you updates as we move along. Any questions?
I do. I think this is a great program. I always like to go to Disneyland, so it's a great experience. I think Ysleta is working towards that goal, and I think we still have a lot of work ahead of us. I've heard from my constituents, and I mean, they're going to say things here and there, but a lot of it is just like Dr. De La Torre said, something we can take care of and avoid with just talking to them. The part that I'm just questioning is accountability. How are we going to do accountability? Is there a plan for that, or is that just?
So there's a couple of things. When we define the 4 service excellence standards, and I'm going to give you a little visual. Sorry, there's people are not surprised, but the whole little chair.
There you go.
We deliver excellence, and we made the W, and then we did the Y, and then we did the X for the excellence piece on there. But the other piece that we did is when our leadership and our people went through the trainings, we defined some of those. And so you'll have some of those definitions in the cards and the gifts that we gave you, the innovation ones and the VIPs as well. But when we talk about safety, we talk about emotional, intellectual, and physical safety. So we define those three things for them. And so whenever we think of safety, we had everybody march. And so we went through an activity, through definitions, and so we had them marching. Through courtesy, we talked about more than just being nice, really making eye contact, putting your phone down, answering the phone within 2 rings, all kinds of things. We really went into depth by defining those pieces on there. So to give them the visual, we made a heart. And so again, we defined it, went through an activity with them, and they actually have to do the little heart just so that they can have a visual and a physical representation of what they're doing. And for innovation, we define innovation by not just using technology, but really giving students and any of our VIPs world-class experiences, things that are relevant, things that are new to them, things that are meaningful for whatever they're going to do. So for innovative, we went like this because we want you to always think about doing something differently. We have secretaries, everybody has secretaries. We have schools, everybody has schools. But what's gonna make Ysleta the district? What's gonna make us unique? So we run them through an activity for those kinds of things to define it and then just leave that visual representation as well. So for accountability, finally, we also talk about it's not just test scores. It's really making sure that I am accountable for myself, for what I'm doing, for what I'm representing. And one of the analogies we used is at Disney, everybody picks up the trash. It doesn't matter if you are the custodian, if you are the sweeper, if you're the guy that pushes the start on and off button on the rides, if you are somebody who has the last name Disney, it doesn't matter. If you see a piece of trash somewhere on the floor, everybody is responsible for picking up that trash. And so we run them through an activity with the accountability pieces as well to tell them it takes all of us. And that's where the integration matrix comes in. Accountability could be if you're looking at how I do benchmarking, if I'm looking about how I make sure that everybody's on the same page, if I'm looking at data, if I'm looking at benchmark scores, if I'm looking at milestones, how am I making sure, what are we doing with it once I have the score? So if I'm already here and the top is here, what am I doing to get further? If I'm down here, how do I keep making those progress measures? So we run them through activities with things like that. And so our total physical response notion for that is the Superman pose. So we really ran them through, depending on the department or depending on the campus, we ran them through specific pieces on there. We gave them some stuff so they could go back and take it to the campus, and that's why we'll keep visiting this over and over because it's going to be accountability all the way across.
As far as, if I can add to that, as far as the accountability goes, the piece on paper is really, I think what we need to look at. As Dr. De La Torre mentioned, in our office, we received 460 complaints, half of those being customer service oriented. And so at the end of the year, Mr. Vasquez and I combed through every single one of those, and that's how we figured out what our numbers were. And then at the beginning of this year, at one of the leadership meetings, we did hand each principal a report as to, they know now exactly this many concerns came in for your campus, it was of this nature, et cetera, and so on. And so what we've also done in People and Parent Services is the associates get a report weekly of the concerns that come through our office. And as part of that, as part of Service Excellence, what we've added to our piece of the report in the office is right at the top. It does say, is this a service excellence or customer service situation? Yes or no? And then when our secretary, Ms. Rubalcaba, works on that report that is handed over to the associates on a weekly basis, it'll tell you, this happened at this school, and yes, it was customer service oriented or not. So we've taken an extra step in how we do the reports, how we handle them, and then the other piece that we've added is the associates are not going to be the only ones that receive the reports on a weekly basis. If your campus had a concern come to our office, you are also, as the principal, receiving that report.
I have a question.
I just wanted to say that this is an excellent program and it's exciting. And I think what we're wanting to do is change the culture.
Absolutely.
And so it's going to take time, and we will see the change as time goes on, as long as we keep the momentum. So thank you, and it's exciting to be participating in the change.
We're very excited about it. I think one thing that we remind ourselves when things come to the office is Disney wasn't built in a day.
Exactly.
This is, it takes time. It's definitely, a culture change for us, but we're really excited and committed to doing it. And the team back there, I mean, we've worked together quite a bit just to do what we can that's best for our VIPs.
I also wanted to point out that you mentioned personnel. How is that gauged? That's my interest also, between our staff and everybody else, because we have to also show excellence in that area.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the things that we're talking about, the internal customer service. We want to do a better job of recognizing our employees whenever they're doing great things. We're not calling them out when they're doing bad things. We want to have, just for our leadership meetings, we're going to be giving out awards based on those who are exhibiting those service excellence standards and recognizing them for following those standards. Also, we are in the process, in the discussion stages of having some sort of a survey, possibly, a customer satisfaction survey at the schools for parents to take as they leave the school. So that's something we're in the discussion phases on at this point.
I just want to, oh, sorry.
I was just going to mention, I think one of the biggest, we've made, I think, great progress relative to the relationship that we have with our teachers and our employees and the associations. I think when I arrived, generally speaking, there may have been a dozen, 2 dozen grievances filed, employee complaints. Those have been reduced to almost nothing. I think if you look back in 15, 16, and 16, 17, we may have received 2, maybe 3 employee grievances that have to do with not any one employee, but with the working conditions of all employees and what's being expected of them. So we work very closely with the association. We work with our principals and remind our principals that we'd like to have issues resolved at the lowest level. Rather than allow them to get momentum, accelerate, and become something that's visceral and emotional where neither side wants to retreat. This administration, this leadership team, I think, appreciates that our students will only be successful when our teachers are successful, and our job is to support the person in the 4 corners of the classroom by whatever means that may be within the parameter of the resources that we have available. So we don't see that management labor relationship as much as some organizations see it. I think we all have leadership attributes, and we are all in this as laborers or managers. I don't think we make that distinction the way it's made in some school districts. So I feel really good about that. There is undoubtedly a number of initiatives that would not have been possible without the support of our employees and our associations. So, relatively speaking, I think that's something that we kind of keep our fingers on that pulse. And again, the employees do get an opportunity to kind of react to how they believe their leadership team is providing them an environment that's conducive to teaching. And those surveys have been, for the most part, very favorable. We'll keep looking at that. But I think we're in a real good place. But as you've said, there's always room for improvement.
I just wanted to ask, as far as, since you've pretty much taught most of the staff so far, what has the reception been like, and has there been any concerns or questions that have arisen because of these trainings that you feel need to be maybe addressed or changed?
We've gotten really positive feedback from everybody. It's been a lot of fun. I think that where we've headed with this, and when it was rolled out to the campuses, there was a lot of warmth that, and it's Mickey, so it's kind of warm and fuzzy anyway, right? But we received a lot of positive feedback from the people that we trained here. And then there's directors who have just kind of taken it and made it their own. The little chant that Luisa just showed you, even transportation came up with their own version. We drive, deliver excellence type of thing. And so as far as the concerns go, when we're speaking to people at campuses, we do bring up, okay, did you go through service excellence training? Yes, I did. Okay, how could we have handled this differently? So we grabbed that opportunity to have the employee reflect on what could we have done differently? How could we have exceeded this parent's expectations? So I think in incorporating all of that a piece at a time, we're going to have the accountability piece, but I have not heard anything negative, and we actually did receive back our surveys that were sent out through professional development, and we did not have anything negative. Everything was either strongly agree or agreed that the training was needed.
I think one of the things,
There
though,
was
that we
one-
all acknowledge and appreciate, to Catherine's point, is that we're asking for a change in behavior. And so we know that there's probably going to be some eye rolling, some resentment. There are going to be comments like, with everything else that we're responsible for doing, and now they add another layer of this silliness, right? And that's natural, and the human condition is such that, you know, when people reach a certain age, they feel like that they are who they are, and the time to change your disposition or your personality has come and gone, and I am who I am. I want to come, I want to be on time, I want to do my job, I'm not here to make friends, I want to leave at the end of the day, and I want to go spend time with my family. So we've not seduced ourselves with the idea that everybody after a single meeting is going to somehow be transformed into this incredibly positive person. So we know that one of the things that we have to do is we have to be vigilant, and we have to keep moving forward in a very intentional way rather than do what a lot of times happens, and that is that after a while people start losing steam and that initiative starts going into the background, and before you know it, it was viewed as flavor of the day, and we outlived that superintendent, and we outlived that initiative, and we get to go back to being real. And so one of the things that the people out in the audience have done is they've made a commitment that regardless of the resistance and the resentment, we're still going to provide service excellence with a smile and keep at it so that over time, living right becomes kind of the norm. It is what it is, and you don't feel like you're doing something unusual or extraordinary. It's just the way we do things here. But to your point, it will take time. It will not happen in a year, may not happen in 2 years. What will not happen is we won't retreat from it.
Questions?
Mr., are you?
You know, I don't want to belabor the point. I just, you know, I sit here and I just think of all the ramifications. Not only are you working with the attitudes of the people that we've had and so on and so forth, but you're establishing, you're creating a seed that's going to be very reflective of our children. 'Cause you can have all the programs in the world and you can agree on all this and this and that. The fact is, we as a community, we as a society have gotten away from respecting one another. And what I'm hearing now is that we're back into what should be part of our daily routine. How we respect one another goes a long ways as how you can produce or not produce, if you will. I live in an industry that requires a tremendous amount of attention to detail. And it requires that oftentimes when people call, sometimes they're misinformed and they have their attitude already. And our job is to receive that call, receive that not attitude, but receive their connection to us in such a way where we can begin to understand and begin to express our concerns about their concerns. And so my kudos to you, Dr. La Torre. You people out there in the back that are falling asleep on me, don't. You're doing a tremendous, I mean, I just sit here, I'm awed, I really am. If our society was to undertake these type of efforts, we'd live in a totally different environment. And I thank you for having the vision, and I thank you for having the commitment. End of my speech. You're doing a great job. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. I think we'll take a 10-minute health break.
Oh, now you call it.
I know. I don't know if they even heard me. Here we go. Okay, Mike. Come on, Mike. We've lost. No, everybody's coming. We got everyone.
Rosales, you know where you're reading that?
I know. He I know, I'm telling you. Yes, can't start without you guys. All right, Dr. Delatorre, do we have any more presentations?
Yes, Madam President,
Wishful thinking.
we do. We have two more, and then we'll give the board an opportunity to address any questions to Ms. Champagne. She's with us this evening. But one of the things that we have in the district that doesn't get enough credit, Gloria Chavez, her department, and her programmers develop amazing programs and apps, and they're going to share one that they developed based on an interest that was expressed by the board relative to how we control our management systems. And so they'd like to share their app, because there's an app for it now, with the board to see whether or not they're on the right path. And to introduce them, Ms. Lindley Leeper, our Chief Financial Officer, is with us this evening.
So good evening, President Woodruff, members of the board, and Dr. De La Torre. So as Dr. De La Torre mentioned, there was interest raised a year ago about how we were tracking assets and managing the items that we are entrusted with. And then at your recent internal audit workshop about 6 weeks ago, the question was raised again. So before I turn it over to the very talented TIS team, I want to give you some context. TEA requires that any asset with an individual cost of $5,000 or more must be captured in our financial accounting system, which we do, and we report on our financial statements. However, the district many, many years ago decided to track any asset that they deemed important to be tracked. And so whether it had a cost of $5,000 or $1,000 or $500, if it was important and we wanted to keep track of it, they put it in the financial accounting system. Well, after many years of doing so, the system is overburdened, and it's difficult to really manage those items that we're trying to keep track of. So any item that costs less than $5,000 is defined as, or is named for our purposes, a controlled item. And what the team is going to display for you in just a moment is the application they've developed for use at the campus level, the department level, the accounting level, and by the warehouse staff. And so without further ado, this is really a neat system. I'm going to let them turn it over to them and let them walk you through it, and then I'll be available to answer any other questions you might have.
Thank you. Yes. Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. De La Torre. Tonight, as Ms. Leeper mentioned, we took her vision of taking those controlled items and separating them from the fixed asset. So what we did is we came together as a team and decided to write an app. And with me, I have my co-presenters, which is Filiberto Maldonado. He is our software engineer. He manages the software development team, and that's Ozzy Guillen, and he's the developer for our team as well.
Was he the shortstop for the White Sox about 10 years ago?
He might look like them. So they're the ones that the masterminds behind building this particular application. So they're going to be my drivers, and I'm going to kind of model what we've done for the warehouse, how we've automated some of the processes at the warehouse. Okay.
We're struggling with microphones.
Microphones.
Oh, there it is. Okay. So the system of record for the financial records is the Tyler Munis system. And so if you look towards this chart right here, is a Tyler Munis system. Everyone who enters a requisition comes through Tyler Munis, gets turned into a purchase order, goes through a vendor, and then ships to back to the warehouse. So that's the process that's happening right now. So Ms. Lindley Leeper asked us to take all of the fixed assets that come through the district and identify them as either a controlled asset item or a controlled item, and then ship the rest to the fixed asset. So if you see right here, this is our financial system of record. Then we have what we call the receiving. So this is a part that we automated for the warehouse and the district. Now, the warehouse pretty much had a manual system. And the reason we're sharing this with you, or we brought this with you today, is we bought the warehouse digital display so that they can post up on the board, and then they can track. You'll see throughout the presentation, you'll see some dashboards, and you'll see what is it that they can track. So everything starts at the warehouse. Once the vendor comes and ships something to the warehouse person goes to the truck, and we've provided tablets for them so that they can, right now they use it manually. They use a clipboard, and then they write items that are coming in from the truck or the delivery person. So we've provided them with some technology, which they didn't have before. And now what they do is, as the warehouser, I go to the vendor and he gives me a box. And he says, here's a box. It's a computer. Usually it has a shipping label, a PO number, that kind of thing. So the warehouser looks at the box and says, here's PO number 12345. Okay? So what that does is, remember that everything is started at Tyler Munis on the requisition portion. The requisition is entered by pretty much all the clerks and the clerks at the campuses. So all the information that's carried through Tyler Munis already lives, is already living in this, we're bringing it over to this new application. So we put in the PO number, and then so if you follow the screen, I think if you follow your screens, you'll see the application. Do you see the application? Right? Yes? If you click on presentation, I think twice, you'll see it. Yeah, everybody's. Okay, throughout the system, we've created some dashboards that will also tell the warehouse where this item is. So this item came in, I type in PO number 12345, or he's gonna give me a real one. I type it in. And notice that all the information is populated here on the system. This is already coming from Tyler Munis. So when the item is received at the warehouse, it's tracked from that time and all the way out to the end, up until you provide it to either a classroom or an employee, okay? So once you save the form, that item is a permanent item on the controlled asset item or the fixed asset item, okay? Okay, so notice right here in August, we had about 40,000 items that came to the warehouse. If you hover over that, or Philly's hovering over that, this will allow you to look at trends in the warehouse department if you need to reallocate resources on certain times of the year. And pretty much this is August, which, you know, everybody has a new budget, so everybody's spending their money. And it gets lower as they finish spending as they their funds. So then the next step is, so the receiving module says, are you a controlled item or are you a fixed asset item? Controlled items are less than $5,000. So the system says, okay, I'm a controlled item. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to the tagging section. So the tagging section, and this dashboard tells you, This is everything that we've received. And if you notice the green buttons and the red buttons, that tells you how behind you are with actually receiving items and taking them to the next level. We can add a timer and say, okay, our district will deliver all our equipment within 2 days. So we can put a timer on there and it'll keep track of the time that it's sitting idle, wherever it's sitting idle, or whatever stage it's at. So you can see there's some reds. So the campus staff would be able to determine, hey, we got a lot of work to do. We have a lot of red tags on there. Okay, so we've also automated the process for tagging. So we have also a wireless scanner where we can provide to the warehouse people. They have their own process for tagging items. So this is the item that I received, has a serial number, and here's my tag number that I'm going to attach to it. So all I do is take my gun, and I do the tag number first. And notice how it populated onto the system. I do the serial number, and it populated it to the serial number. What we're doing now is we are storing the tag with the item, and it's a permanent record as well. Okay? The warehousers can also do what we call remote scanning. They don't have to be in one location. You can have more than one scanner. They can be around the warehouse, and one scanning one pallet of something and the other one another pallet of something. Okay? The next one. So now, once it's tagged, if this is a computer, usually the computer needs to go to a location called the imaging department. The imaging department, what they do is they bind the computer to the network. They identify the computer so that we can search it on the network. Those kind of things. If it doesn't need, if it's a printer or some other type of item, it goes straight to the next step. So the imaging department is at the warehouse. Believe it or not, the imaging department consists of one supervisor and 6 students that we hire every year. They're juniors and seniors that come and work for us, depending on the schedule that they have. So they get to learn about, all the different ways to process technology, and they don't even have to be a major in technology, but it makes them understand the importance of, having technology, in their study and how it will evolve to whatever field they choose. So once it's delivered to the warehouse, to the imaging department, there's a handshake. The handshake is like an electronic signature. It says, okay, here, imager, go image my device. Let's do a little handshake, and basically we just exchange employee ID numbers, okay? And vice versa. Once the imager finishes, he handshakes it back to the warehouse, okay? Now, the next step, you can tell here too, on the dashboarding what the status is. The next step is for the warehouse person to deliver it to the campus. So we take this item, they have a group of items to deliver. So they take the items, they say they're going to a campus, they're going to Capistrano and Pasadena. So they get to the campus, and then there's always somebody there. It's not like FedEx or UPS that they just throw it in there. So they actually handshake with someone that's there. We call up the PO with my tablet because I'm a warehouser, and I say, okay, I'm delivering PO number 12345. It has items 12345, okay? So the person on the other end can pull up the PO as well, and they can see, yes, that's correct. This is my PO. These are my items. I'm good to go. Then we click on deliver and another handshake there as well. That's what we call a handshake. All we do is exchange employee ID numbers. So now the item is stored at the campus level. And then you can also see these measures here that tell you what percentage of where the item is, if it's been delivered, if it's been tagged. And this is available to everyone in the district. Clerks, anyone who wants to see the status of their order can come in here and see. Okay? Now, one of the things that we did this year with the finance team, with help from the finance team, is we broke down the commodity codes. When you actually purchase an item, you're able to break it out in these different commodity codes so that we can do reporting, for how much do we spend on toner? How much do we spend on a copier? That kind of thing. So we've broken it down to that level as well. You can also click on the commodity, and it'll tell you, right now we're looking at Eastwood High School, and it'll tell you how much Eastwood High School has spent on that commodity. Okay? So now it's up to the campus to say, I'm going to deliver it either to a building or a classroom, to a lab, or to a person. So this goes to the counselor. If it goes to the counselor, then I do the handshake with the counselor as well. If it goes to a lab or if it goes to a collaborative area, if it's a digital display, then it goes to, it's flagged there. So the clerk will be able to tag those items and transfer them back and forth where they go. Now, and the last feature is the employee level. Now, me as an employee, I can also look at this dashboard and see, okay, what is it that belongs to me? So if I leave the district, if I transfer to another campus, then this will keep track of my transactions as well. Okay? So I said I would be 10 minutes. I think I'm 10 minutes. And so any questions? It's just a brief, there's a lot of detail behind this, but it's just a brief presentation of what the amazing work that this team does, and take a vision and put it into action.
I have a question. Have you already trained all of the personnel that are doing this?
The warehouse component, the warehouse receiving is already live. It went live in August. So they're already, that's those 40,000 items that came in, those are already live items.
And then I guess the campus has to be trained.
The campus is just a handshake, yes, and then we can have some, web trainings or trainings with the staff on how to just pull up the dashboard.
So that they can see their personal part of it.
Yes, ma'am.
This sounds like such an extraordinary, such a great system. It really does.
It's customized to Ysleta. We took finance's vision and we took our expertise and put it together, and it's a web-based, real-time, online application that can be accessed from anywhere.
Can I just say that's incredibly impressive that you all designed that by yourselves?
Thank you.
You should sell it to other districts, make the district more money. I'm not joking, that was very impressive.
Thank you very much. They do have quite a bit of apps that they've created. We have 5 now that we have copywritten. They're
Yeah, we
also
have
available.
patents on.
Hey, that'd be a great moneymaker.
Yeah,
I'm
so-
sure every district would love something like this.
Yes, so we will be copywriting this one once we finish. The next stages would be for the finance team to do audits, reporting, monitoring, that kind of thing, more for Ms. Leeper's team. Okay? Anything else? Any other
Mr. Ramirez?
Congratulations to you and your team again
Thank you.
for a great app. Have you gotten any feedback from the warehouse staff?
Oh, they love it. The warehouse staff who's actually taking advantage of the scanning component, they love it. I mean, it's lessened their time of receiving from, days to almost nothing. And they used to do it manually on a spreadsheet, and sometimes that spreadsheet would get corrupted and it wouldn't come up, so they'd have to sometimes almost start over. So it was all on a clipboard manual. Now they'll be able to travel around the warehouse. This display, it's not so big, but a display like this will be up on the board, and they can always, everyone has a visual of what's happening.
It's very impressive that here at YSD, the different departments work together hand in hand, so they're each talking to each other, and that shows the cohesiveness of our district, so thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for that.
Gloria, just one other quick question. I'm really pleased that you have those students involved that do a portion of this. Is there any way for our TLCC students to be involved in something like this?
I'm certain that there's a role that they can probably play in there.
I'm sorry, you know what, that's probably not a fair question, because I shouldn't surprise you with that, but would you think about that and,
Sure.
and perhaps work with
Sure.
Ms. Leeper and with the academic team, see if we can't come up with something?
Sure, sure.
And if we can, fine, if we can't, I understand.
Sure, I will definitely look into that.
Thank you.
Those students do awesome.
They do.
They behave very well. They follow the rule. They learn about work ethic. They learn about how to deal even with their peers when they're out at the campuses. They learn how to behave. They don't do the chummy thing. They have a different role when they're with us as opposed to when they're in the campus. Okay. So one last thing, did we deliver excellence? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Incredibly impressive. Good job, Fili and team.
Thank you.
Let's invite our friends from VLK, our program managers, up to give us kind of an update on where we are relative to Bond 2015. With us is John this evening and Adrian. The floor is yours.
Thank you. They're loading the presentation right now, but good evening, President Woodruff, Dr. De La Torre, members of the board. Tonight, we're bringing to you a presentation that is an overview of basically the bond program starting from November 2015 to this point, and then we're also going to go into, is this on? We're also going to go into what the future holds for the bond also. So, waiting for, I guess while they're loading this up, now, the reason why we're going back and recapping is to bring, of course, the new board members up to speed on this presentation, or the bond package, and then also to help refresh the existing board members of how we've gotten to this point. There we go. Okay. Is that up now? Okay. Here we go. All right. So y'all have seen this slide, I think, previously, but this is the organizational structure for the bond team. Of course, we have Mr. O'Neill's group that helps us out, and then this is we have the bond office, VLK, and Sloan was to be here today to help present this, but he went for a mountain bike ride yesterday and ended up with 2 cracked ribs. So we gave him a pass and he stayed back in Fort Worth. But of course, myself and Adrian, and then got a number of people that help us out on a daily, weekly basis. And we also have 50 people back in the Fort Worth office that I'm able to ask any sort of specific questions to, that come up, weekly, bi-weekly, monthly. So that's the organizational structure of the bond team. So November 2015, the bond passed, and while Dr. De La Torre was going and talking about the bond, he talked about the 4 pillars of this bond that he felt were the most important part. Of course, within budget, on time, all else equal, go local, and of course, quality. So as we go through this presentation, you'll see where we've met one of these 4 pillars on different portions of the bond so far, and I'll point those out as we go through the presentation. So December 2015, VLK was hired as the program manager. At that point, we had basically, I guess there's just over 60 campuses. And what we needed to do there is now we've got scopes of work, and what we have to do is put packages together so that we can hire architects and contractors to be able to design and build these projects. In doing that, we basically grouped it into 20 bid packages, and in those bid packages, we would combine scopes of work that were similar so that we could get economy of scale within those projects. Once we have those bid packages, divided it up into phase 1, phase 2 of the bond. I think we had 11 projects in phase 1. We had 9 projects in phase 2, but that also gives a schedule of when bonds can be sold, and also so that we're not flooding the market with all of the projects that are going out. Again, December, we set up the controls for each of these bid packages, setting up design schedules when we were going to get the architects on board, when we were going to get the contractors on board, and the schedule for construction. So this slide right here, if there's one slide within this presentation that I want y'all to remember, this is the slide that I'd like you to remember. So from December 2015 until this month, September 2017, when we come to the board on Wednesday for Bid Pack 14, Lancaster LeBaron, at that point, we will have had 14 out of the 20 bid packages encumbered, meaning that we've awarded them to a contractor. So what that means is that 75% of the value of the entire bond that we will have encumbered under construction in less than 20 months. So the entire bond is $430 million. I added it up, and it's in the neighborhood of 328 of the estimated amount is will be under contract. You know, some of the reasons we were able to do this, you know, VLK's professional knowledge of more than 30 years of school design. We were able to work with the design professionals in the local market, make quick decisions, and, you know, in doing that, we get ourselves quicker to the market and better value for the district. And I think Dr. De La Torre mentioned a little bit about that in his previous presentation that he talked about. So January 2016, we hit the ground running. The first thing we did was we selected a pool of professionals that would be doing for these 20 bid packages the surveys. We hired geotechnical engineers. They're doing the soil analysis for the structural engineers on these projects. We hired a structural engineer for a special project, one of the bid packages. Materials testing, they do concrete during construction, concrete testing, steel weld testing, things like that. Civil engineer, hired a pool of civil engineers, and test and balance for the HVAC systems once the projects were complete. HVAC being the air conditioning and heating systems. So right off the bat, hired 13 firms, 12 of which were local. The one firm that was not, it was in the test and balance. We had 2 firms respond, and we felt like we needed to have at least two firms to be able to provide test and balance so that we wouldn't be giving all of the work to one firm. So that's the one reason why there's one kind of outsider there. February 2016, selected the architects for our Phase 1 projects. There's basically 11 bid packages or projects there. We hired 8 local firms. 2 of these projects, the local firms were teamed with regional architects to give those projects a little bit more horsepower. Complicated. Eastwood High School was one of those, Parkland Middle School the other. But all of those projects had a local firm that was on board. In March, we kicked off the design phase with the architects for the following Phase 1 projects. One of the things that we do in order to help facilitate and get these projects moving quickly is on the larger projects, we have public charrettes. So brought in Chad Davis, who's the facilitator on these charrettes, and we held public meetings. It's about 30 folks from the community, stakeholders, that basically go in, and there is a gaming board, as you can see there in that photo, that gets community buy-in for the project, and also gives the architects some ideas on what the community is looking for within the design of their schools. So the projects that we had the charrette meetings, Bel Air Middle School, the new Valley View Middle, Mission Valley Elementary Combo, Eastwood High School, and Parkland Middle School. Oops, backwards. All right. Also in March 2016, we selected Hellas Construction for the athletic enhancements. This is to do the multi-purpose turf at the stadiums, baseball, softball lighting, and baseball, softball sound system, perimeter fencing, scoreboards, backstop netting, and foul line fencing. Hellas Construction is a national firm that has tons of experience doing athletics. There were no local firms that were available that provided that type of service. Hellas, very well known. I think they did the turf at Cowboy Stadium and all across the country. So had very good references. Another thing that I would say is that they did hire local subcontractors that help them out in certain aspects of this project. So April 2016, we had our second public charrette meetings for those projects, and we also had the first bond oversight committee meeting where we basically outlined the overview of the bond program, and then we also had the architects present and discuss their designs on some of the bid packages that they were working on. Parkland Middle School, one of those complicated projects that basically the campus is, of course, operational and functioning while we're trying to construct a addition and renovation. We selected Baines Construction as the construction manager for that project, local. I think they've been in the El Paso area for over 50 years. In May 2016, selected Buford Thompson Construction for construction manager. Eastwood High School, again, they've been in the El Paso area for over 10 years. The one down below, awarded contract to replace gym floor at Del Valle High School Auxiliary Gym. So I talked about the schedule that we put together at the very beginning. This is one of those things that just comes up as a bond program starts moving. Mr. O'Neill came over to the bond office and said, we have a gym floor that we're not able to use at Del Valle, the auxiliary gym. When are y'all going to have that project out to bid? And I said, that's a phase 2 project. So we basically, changed up the game plan, and we looked at a wood floor supplier, and we were able to get somebody on board to be able to take care of that wood floor over the summer of 2016. In June 2016, Martinez Brothers was hired as to do the structural repairs to Constant Holbert and Riverside Middle School. Of course, that project was in budget. We also selected Buford Thompson as the construction manager at risk for Valley View, Mission Valley Elementary, and we awarded the contract to Avaya for the secure entry system and school management system. That project was in budget. Again, on that one, we had a national firm. No local firm was available for that project to do basically what was needed for the secure entry. June 2016, awarded Baines Construction the Phase 1 GMP. This was for the existing building demolition. Again, local and within budget. And we also went to the El Paso Association of General Contractors, and we had a joint meeting with, of course, Ysleta, and we presented the projects that were going to be coming out to the Association of General Contractors so that they would know what was going to be on the horizon coming up in the latter part of 2016. July, construction continues on the athletic enhancements, the structural repairs, district-wide secure entry. We released, the architects completed the design for Eastwood Knolls, and we put that out for proposal for a general contractor. We also kicked off GA Architecture, local firm, who I think both the owners are Riverside graduates, to begin the design on the new Thomas Manor Elementary School. Also released the bid documents for the demolition of the TLCC, where the new Bel Air Middle School site would be. Again, had another bond oversight committee meeting that we presented the design status and constructions, the schedules for construction. August 2016, VLK hosted the community design charrettes for the new Thomas Manor. We awarded a demolition contract for Spartan Construction local for the demolition of the TLCC, again in budget, and board approved Phase 2 GMP with Baines for the concrete and steel at Parkland Middle School, again in budget. The multipurpose fields, in August 2016, we basically finished the fields with Hellas on time and budget. Quality, Bid Pack 19, which is the structural repairs to Constant Holbert Riverside, completed on time and budget. Quality, and the district-wide secure entry projects completed on time and budget and quality. September 2016, PRSBB, local firm, was hired for the architectural services for the design of the portable village at Eastwood High School. Also awarded the construction contract for Eastwood Knolls International School to Dantex, local contractor. The project was in budget. And the architect released the design documents for Tierra del Sol Desert Air. VLK hosted the second design charrette with GA Architecture, and also that auxiliary gym that we had talked about earlier. We completed that on time and within our budget numbers. We released Rio Bravo Ysleta Middle School for bidding. We awarded AO general contractors in October 2016 for the cafeteria addition. Tierra del Sol, again, the project was in budget, and awarded the demolition contract to Spartan Construction for removal of existing Thomas Manor building in budget. And finally, in October, Phase 3, the GMP for Baines Construction. This was the site and building that was in budget, and then had another meeting with the Bond Oversight Committee to update them on the status of the bond. November 2016, Portable Village for Eastwood High School. We went out to bid. We released the design documents, the construction documents for bidding for the new Bel Air Middle School. Awarded Dantex, local firm, for the construction of Rio Bravo Ysleta Middle School, again in budget. And we kicked off the architectural design with PRSBB, a local firm, for the renovation of Hanks High School. Also, and Adrian will touch on this in 2017, but we did notice what the district to the west of y'all did in November 2016, and took that into consideration in moving forward. December 2016, we awarded another local firm, Urban Associates, the contract for the new Bel Air Middle School within the budget, and we kicked off the meeting, or kicked off the design phase for Lancaster LeBaron cafeteria additions with architecture, another local architect, and also the Bond Oversight Committee. They presented to the board, basically giving y'all an update and status of the board. I'm going to turn it over to Adrian to talk about 2017.
Good evening. And what John just mentioned, when the El Paso District passed their bond, we did reassess the Phase 2 projects. We brought some forward, those being Bel Air's gym additions and renovations, and the Parkland T-STEM, and Ysleta Fine Arts. Ysleta Fine Arts had already been awarded, and then the other 22 campuses that are on that list were brought forward, so those designs could start this year. We have things that were being completed in January of 2017, so the remainder of the athletic enhancements, so the baseball and softball fields and the tennis court lighting was finished on time and in budget. We did, now in February, demolition of Thomas Manor was completed on time and on budget, and that was in anticipation of a future board award. Buford Thompson began the installation of the portable village there at Eastwood, and the renovation of the stadium restrooms. So we did have a lot going on each and every month. You know, Phase 1 for Valley View Mission Valley Combo School was awarded in March to get that project started. So once school was out, we already had the contractor with being able to do earthwork, put in fences, and take care of things, you know, as the students left. We awarded the contracts for those Phase 2 projects, so all the architects, so it was 5 firms were selected to do the remainder of the bond work here, all local. In April, the Thomas Manor was out to bid, and then we took the Bond Oversight Committee to Parkland Middle, Desert Air, and Eastwood Knolls. So in October of this year, we'll revisit those schools so they can see the progress. That's in May, and Baines gets Thomas Manor. Buford Thompson has Phase 2 for Eastwood, and Phase 1 GMP is awarded for the combo. All, you know, moving fast. So we're getting to June, and we had another award of construction contract to Arrow. They're at Hanks doing $9 million worth of life cycle renovations, and Buford Thompson starts demoing Eastwood. in July, the final GMP approval for the combo school. Again, we took the committee out to several other sites so that we can compare with future site visits. Then we got August. So here we go. We opened up the academic edition at Parkland Middle School in time for students. Fine Arts at Eastwood Knolls opened, and the Fine Arts at Ysleta Middle opened. And Buford Thompson, the last of the phasing award for Eastwood was addressed. So in September, what you have coming before you will be the award for the kitchen cafeteria and life cycle renovations at Lancaster and LeBaron. As we go into the future, in October, we will be opening the gym addition at Eastwood Knolls, the cafeteria additions at Tierra del Sol and Desert Air, the gym at Rio Bravo, and the administration area for Parkland Middle. So we're going to take, again, like as I mentioned, the Bond Oversight Committee to see that first tour, and that takes us through 2017 for a project, so we don't anticipate any other work that'll be awarded other than this month.
So moving forward, so in spring of 2018, we'll have 3 packages that'll be coming to y'all for award of construction contracts. The Fine Arts at Ysleta High School, gymnasium at Bel Air High School, and the STEM early college renovation to Parkland High School. Summer, we'll be completing Bel Air Middle, Thomas Manor, and the Fine Arts and Science Edition at Eastwood High School. And we'll also look at kicking off the design phase for our 3 life cycle deficiency work programs that basically encompasses all of those campuses that you can see there. Fall 2018, we'll be completing the cafeteria addition, Lancaster LeBaron Elementary, and the renovations at Hanks High School. Spring, we will be bringing y'all the bid and start the construction on the life cycle deficiency work. Summer 2019, we'll be completing Eastwood High School, Valley View Mission Valley Combo, Fine Arts Edition, Ysleta High School, and the STEM early college renovations to Parkland High School. And then in the fall of 2019, we'll be completing the competition auxiliary gym at Bel Air High School. Move into 2020, we'll basically be completing the life cycle renovations projects that are listed there. And that brings us to basically questions. If y'all have questions or anything of status of something.
I have a question, just for clarification on my part. What's life cycle renovations?
So what are the life cycle renovations? What do they encompass?
Yeah, just in general terms.
So within those, and it depends on the campuses, but most of the items that they'll include is roof. There may be electrical panels that need to be replaced. Trying to think of, they'll also have like security system that would be involved, fire alarm, possibly upgrades, replacing HVAC units.
Oh, okay. It's just stuff that over the time they wear out, or they're.
It's basically kind of maintenance.
Okay.
Maintenance work within the schools. So, does that answer your question?
Yeah, I just didn't have any idea what really you were talking about.
Okay. Any other questions, comments?
I have one. Those life cycles are they already determined, or?
Yes. So if you look on so when we went through the bond planning process, they were determined in some of the committees.
Okay.
And then if you go to the website and click on any of the campuses, it'll basically explain what is in each one of those campuses as far as the scope of work and life cycle.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And finally, if the board has any questions or would like Champagne to address any issues or concerns, she's available to you this evening.
Good evening, President, Madam, Dr. Delatoro, everybody.
I had just one comment. I really liked the changes that you made in the color coding of the audit reports. I thought that was a good change, and I think you listened to what the board was saying, and I think you helped us out there. Thank you.
Sure, sure. And we also add the group number in the project tracking number. So it was started with the year. If you look at the subject line, it will be the our project tracking to help me out with continue our tracking. So I did not change the year, but we add the group number, either 1.1 or 3.1 or 6.1 into the tracking number so that you can refer back to the audit plan list. I hope that helps too.
I think it did. Go ahead, Mr. Ramirez.
Champagne,
Yes,
reference Townsend and Associates
yes.
in the presentations that they gave the other day, or he gave the other day. Quite honestly, I wasn't real happy with his explanations and presentations he gave to the board, especially to our new board members. And I don't think it lent any clarity to the discussion. Could you, and it doesn't obviously happen to be this week, but do you think going forward you could help help all of us on the board understand what the deliverables are and things that he's looking at and that sort of thing, so we can get a better feel for what's happening, what he's looking at and what's happening out there?
Sure, yes.
Okay, from his perspective.
Sure.
All right,
Yes.
thank you.
Yes. Do you prefer a report or do you prefer a PowerPoint? What do you prefer? The communication.
My preference would be just be a communication to the trustees, and obviously they can all weigh in on this done with the Friday afternoon packet that you send out.
Okay, so I'll put it in. If not this Friday package, it will be next Friday package.
That's perfect. Yeah,
That works?
this is a little short time period for you to do that, so.
Okay, so you want to know basically it's what the contract is about.
Yeah, and what he's doing, what he's delivering, and I'm also curious about his findings too.
Okay, yeah. He's supposed to have the HELAS close-up audit ready within this week or next.
Okay,
It's
thank
been
you.
slow.
Thank you.
Sorry about that. But I did send you a report about what I intended to work with Ileana on the projects that we do. Now, if you have any suggestion that you'd like us to modify the schedule and the contents, let me know, and I would definitely rediscuss with Ileana, and then we'll work from there.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
So we'll go ahead and move on and discuss agenda items as listed in the posted notice of regular meeting of Ysleta ISD Board of Trustees for September 13th, 2017, and related recommended motions with the superintendent and executive cabinet, and receive responses to questions and/or requests for additional information through the superintendent in preparation for deliberation and action on said items at the September 13th, 2017 regular Board of Trustees meeting. Okay, so we'll start with the consent items. Consent item number 2114, monthly financial updates to include financial statements and bond project budget updates. Do we have any questions?
I just really quickly thank you to Ms. Lepper for that report that you added on. That's wonderful. That's exactly what I was looking for.
Actually, I wanted to say that myself too. That was very helpful.
Yeah.
And looking at those, I liked it a lot too.
Good, glad to hear it.
Okay, so then consent item number 2, approval of award of additional list of vendors for supplier base of YISD solicitation number 217031 RFPB Academic Resources Part 2. Okay, consent item number 3, approval for request to Texas Education Agency for class size waiver. You good? Okay, number 4, approval of award of YISD solicitation number 218001 RFP Insurance District Comprehensive Liability Policy Package.
Mr. Chairman, I will refrain on any vote.
Okay, so we need to pull this item.
Please.
Number 5, ratification of award of YISD contract number 201-80014 with Region 19 Head Start. Okay, and then that moves us into the action items. Action item number 1, approval of Vision 2020 and 2017-18 scorecard. Number 2, approval of award of YISD solicitation number bond 16 CSP BP 14 Lancaster and LeBaron Park Elementary School additions and renovations. Yes, Mr.
I just have a question.
Rosales.
What is the amount that we're talking about for these 2 projects?
Looks like not an amount not to exceed $7,787,000.
That's what I was looking for. Excuse me. Okay, 7 million?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Just one quick question. I was trying to find it on the Head Start before I asked it. What are child find activities? When I was looking at the Head Start
We're
program.
going back to the Head Start.
And I'm sorry that I delayed that. I was trying to find it on the actual notes to get the exact title. But it said Head Start will assist the LEA in its child find activities. I just wasn't sure what that is.
It's the ECI program that we find the kids, since they're about 2 and 3, we enroll them and start enrolling them in special programs.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Okay, so then we'll move on to consent item number 3. I'm sorry, agenda item, action item number 3. Approval of award of YISD solicitation number 217032 RFQ/RB, professional services for projects of limited scope rebid. And then action item number 4, approval of change directive number 13 to YISD contract number 201-70216 with Dantex Construction. Okay. We'll move on to our closed executive meeting. We'll have consultation with legal counsel regarding El Paso Electric Company rate case, Public Utility Commission of
Madam-
Texas docket number 44941. Number 2, discussion with legal counsel.
Madam President, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Item number 1 on the executive session, we will pull that item. The city council pulled it from their agenda, so they have
Okay.
not approved it, therefore we'll delay until they do. So
Okay,
that one will be pulled.
all right, thank you. Is there going to be, we're not going to discuss it at all, then it's just going to be pulled?
Yes, ma'am, we'll
Okay.
just pull it.
All right. Okay, so then we'll go back to discussion with number 2, discussion with legal counsel regarding J. Martinez versus YISD. Number 3, litigation with Express Scripts, Inc. and HealthScope Benefits. And number 4, formative evaluation of the internal auditor. Then we'll come back and reconvene in open session and possible action items. Of course, number 1 will not be on there anymore. Number 2, consider and take possible action regarding J. Martinez versus YISD. Number 3, litigation with Express Scripts, Inc. and HealthScope Benefits. and we'll have announcements, and then we'll have our adjournment. I'd like the board members to take a look at the tentative October topics that will be coming next month. And you can start thinking of questions and sending them to administration if you see something there that, that you'd like to have more information on. Okay, so I need a motion to adjourn. So Mr. Rosales makes it, and we adjourn at 8:23. He is the man of adjournment.
Boom.